and I'm very hungry. Could you please send me the location of the nearest restaurants as soon as possible? Thanks. Where would we be without the World Wide Web, eh? Well, this week on Click, we go back to the beginning to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the world's very first website. All aboard the Techno boat as we plug into a floating Maker Faire. Making light work, we're at the venues stitching together these amazing images. And we'll see how in the future they might end up in your front room. All that plus the latest tech news and an amazing recreation of the first moon landing. Just one small step away and all that in Webscape. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly. You know, advances in digital technology come at such a clip these days that history feels like it's moving in fast forward. Can you believe it was only 20 years ago that the World Wide Web was invented? Well, to mark the anniversary, the European Organisation for Nuclear Research, CERN, is restoring the world's very first website, which was developed at its computing labs. We sent David Reed to Geneva to indulge in a spot of real digital nostalgia.
You'll have heard of CERN before. It's here that the world's top physicists have been investigating the origins of the universe, colliding particles together in their Large Hadron Collider. It's research everyone wants in on. So 20 years ago, Tim Berners-Lee and his team developed something called the World Wide Web. It's all built around the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP to you and me, which links documents and web pages. Now CERN is restoring the world's first website, the centre of the Internet's Big Bang.
The fact that he called it the World Wide Web, and he insisted on this, he obviously had some of the vision of what a transformation this could be. And they had this idea that it could be transformative, but at the same time, some of the documentation says, don't be disappointed when you come and see what it's like. It's just words on a screen. So there were these two ideas, both that it could be world-changing and that it's actually rather ordinary.
Ordinary also is the corridor on which CERN's computer team worked, though it does have a nice retro feel. The corridor has now become hallowed ground. No one is entirely sure anymore exactly which office was Tim Berners-Lee's, but you can safely say that somewhere along this corridor the World Wide Web was born. So much for an open internet. Tim Berners-Lee's computer is currently held in a glass case at CERN. A scribbled note on the side warns against turning it off. It was, after all, the world's first web address, info.cern.ch.
We're still at a time where you can go to Tim Berners-Lee's machine, it's called a Next computer, you can turn it on and it works. We don't actually know the password, I think Tim Berners-Lee does, but that's quite unique. That's not going to be around forever. So there's an aspect to the fact that we have physical artifacts that need to be preserved and properly looked after.
The web's reach is echoed in CERN's Grid, a virtual supercomputer with hardware distributed in 140 computing centres across the world. This Swiss computer centre is just having an extension built in Hungary. The Grid crunches a mass of data from the proton beams smashing together in the Large Hadron Collider. This approach to managing millions of billions of bytes of data is inspiring scientists in other disciplines, such as those researching human genomes.
Science has to be open, and that's the whole point of science, is that the results that we find are open to everybody, and we apply the same thing to our technology. So the technology that we develop, we push the frontiers in all areas, including computer science. That technology we make freely available to everybody that we work with and to the public at large.
CERN created something that all of us now use every day. And what did they do? They gave it away. Had they licensed it, well, surely they'll be able to pay for their experiments many times over.
Potentially, yes, but maybe it wouldn't have taken off in such a way had it been licensed in that manner.
That's a great lesson for some of the most precious cultural assets, is maybe we can't monetize them all, and that monetization sometimes stifles them.
We managed to catch up with Tim Berners-Lee, and he gave us an insight into what happened behind the scenes when it was finally confirmed that the World Wide Web would be for everyone to use without fee or license. It seems you can't compete with free.
Originally, I sort of proposed the web in 1989, coded it up, wrote the code in 1990, and it started to spread. And as it spread, there was another project called Gopher, which was competing. And the University of Minnesota, who owned the Gopher project, whose employees had created it, they sent around a message to people saying, by the way, it's free now, and don't panic now, but in the future, not for the browser, but if you're running a server, maybe, possibly, we will charge you just a small fee. And everybody panicked. Everybody thought, wait a moment, but I'm not working for the University of Minnesota. I'm not contributing to some University of Minnesota project if this is a proprietary thing. So they came to me and said, Tim, what's the story with the World Wide Web? And I said, well, in principle, it's free, but Robert Caillou, my buddy, was badgering the CERN management to make a commitment to say, we are not going to charge royalties. 3 years later, after 18 months of badgering, that the CERN directorate produced this memo which said, you know what, CERN is not going to charge royalties.
It's easy to lose sight of just how quickly the World Wide Web has grown and entered into all of our lives. It is a cultural artefact worthy of preservation.
David Reed on a personal pilgrimage to the birthplace of the World Wide Web. I wonder where we'll be in another 20 years' time. Okay, next up, look at this week's tech news.
Google has used its annual developer conference to announce a music subscription service. Google Play Music All Access will launch in America for $10 a month and take on the likes of Spotify and Xbox Music. Amongst other announcements like voice search in the Chrome browser, the search giant also announced a new Google Hangouts app, which allows users to have video chats, send text messages, and swap pictures between Android and iOS devices, as well as through Chrome. Also moving cross-platform, BBM. BlackBerry says its messaging crown jewel will be made available for other smartphones this summer, with more advanced features like screen sharing and video and voice calling to follow later in the year. Some analysts are seeing BBM's port to Android and iOS as a sign the hardware maker is moving towards becoming more service-focused. But it'll face stiff competition from not just Google Hangouts, but also from established services like Skype and WhatsApp, which handles a staggering 20 billion messages a day. Amazon has launched Coins, the virtual currency it announced earlier this year. It's initially only available in the US. To kick things off, Amazon is giving away 500 coins, $5 to each owner of a Kindle Fire. For now, coins can only be used to buy games, apps, and for in-app purchases. The currency joins a range of virtual money, including Facebook credits and Microsoft points for Xbox, which, interestingly, Microsoft is this week rumoured to be kicking off in favour of a gift card system. And finally, Microsoft's Bing has gone where no translator has gone before, by adding Klingon to its list of languages. The fictional Star Trek Rogue can now be translated to and from any one of Bing's 41 other tongues. The project is a team-up between Bing and researchers at the Klingon Language Institute, who've been working tirelessly since the 90s to further our understanding of our furrowed-browed friends. Bye-on-ga-pop!
It's easy to forget that as long as you go to the right parts of London and you spend the right amount of money, you can get some pretty decent views of the water. But I wonder how many of those who gazed upon the Thames in the last few days realised that one of the boats bobbing up and down on it was filled with hundreds of tech heads, a ton of coffee, and a super fast internet connection. How do you even get a super fast connection to a boat anyway? LJ Rich was invited aboard to find out more.
This is the captain of your ship.
A souped-up ship moors briefly in London's financial district. The MS Stubnitz is a 50-year-old converted fishing vessel from Germany.
And if you haven't guessed,
This roving venue normally hosts art exhibitions and private parties, but today the ship is providing the backdrop for Electromagnetic Wave, a volunteer-run technology fair with a twist.
People have moved into cities and people have lost their ability for tinkering. So suddenly when you give them a place where they can tinker and they can show each other things that they've made, they're very excited and suddenly it reawakens that urge and that they come out and start making things together.
For a start, that box of circuit boards is the attendee badge. On exploring the ship, those badges flash sympathetically with beacons like this one. It's using near-field communication, similar tech to some credit card contactless payment systems. As well as facilitating the treasure hunt, it's used by organisers to track which area is getting the most traffic. And here's one hotspot. Workshops like this one are running throughout the ship. These people are learning the Scratch programming language from scratch. In less than an hour, they've made a small game.
But no hack day is going to work unless there's a decent internet connection. Luckily, they've got that sorted.
And it's no mean feat. This receiver's pointed at one of the windows in a building across the river. That's transmitting 300 megabits per second as long as the antenna is in line of sight. The cables actually slow down the speed to just under 100 megabits per second. The connection goes through those big green prototype boxes under the laptops. All very cutting edge, and for people who tend to connect online, it's a rare opportunity for a real-world get-together, some delegates having flown in especially for this event.
I'm hoping that this is just the start of events like this in Britain. I mean, these are common in Germany and they're common in America, but only in the last 10 years.
And tech festivals like this are gaining in popularity, though not all are on ships like this one. Nautical, but nice.
The superbly connected and fortunately still dry LJ Rich. And there's plenty more still to come on Click this week. You've heard of surround sound? Well, get ready for surround video. And we have the very best of this week's sites in Webscape.